I caught my mom secretly spiking my drink during family dinner, so I calmly swapped it with my brother's glass. What happened? Just minutes later. Changed our family forever. I still don't know why I looked at the glass. Maybe it was just the way the kitchen light hit the condensation. Or maybe it was the fact that my mother, a woman who usually couldn't sit still for 5 minutes, was practically hovering over the table with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. We were celebrating my younger brother Leo's college acceptance. The house smelled like roast beef and forced laughter. My dad was busy ranting about the news, and Leo was scrolling on his phone, oblivious. I watched Mom walk from the kitchen, clutching 2 glasses of iced tea. She set one in front of me and one in front of my dad. Then she paused. Her hand lingered on the rim of my glass for a second longer than necessary. A weird, trembling hesitation. "Aren't you having any, Mom?" I asked. My voice sounded flat, even to me. "I'll have wine later, honey. Just drink up, you look parched." She turned away too quickly, her posture rigid. I didn't drink. I just watched her. She kept glancing at me from the stove, her hands fidgeting with her apron. It felt like the air in the room had suddenly thinned out. Something was wrong. Something was deeply, unsettlingly wrong. I stood up, acting like I was going to grab the salt from the other side of the island. As I passed behind my brother's chair, I knocked my glass over, a deliberate, clumsy sweep of my arm. Tea shattered across the hardwood. "Oh, for God's sake," my dad barked, jumping up. "I'm so sorry," I said, breathless, acting flustered. I'm a total idiot. "I'll clean it up." I scrambled to grab a towel, but in that split second of chaos, I swapped my glass with the one Leo hadn't touched yet, and then grabbed his abandoned, untouched drink from the side table. It was a fluid motion, practiced and cold. I placed the spiked glass in front of Leo, who was still buried in his phone. I sat back down, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. My hands were shaking, so I shoved them under the table. Mom sat down, her eyes darting between me and Leo. She looked expectant. She wasn't looking at my dad anymore. She was watching Leo. "Drink your tea, Leo," she said, her voice dropping into a register that made my skin crawl. "You worked hard. You need to hydrate." Leo shrugged, took a long, thirsty gulp of the drink I'd moved to his spot, and went back to his game. I waited. The silence in the room felt heavy, suffocating. 5 minutes later, Leo started blinking rapidly. He pushed his phone away. "I feel really dizzy," he muttered, rubbing his temples. "Maybe you're just tired, son," Dad said, not looking up. "No," Leo gasped, his voice slurring. He slumped forward, his forehead hitting the wooden table with a dull thud. The room went deathly quiet. Dad jumped up, shouting Leo's name, shaking his shoulder. Leo was completely dead to the world. My mother didn't scream. She didn't panic. She just stared at him, her face completely void of color, her mouth slightly agape. She looked at the empty glass, then at me. Her eyes met mine, and in that moment, the mask finally slipped. It wasn't just guilt. It was pure, unadulterated malice. "You were supposed to be the one," she whispered. It was so quiet I barely heard it. "What did you put in there, Mom?" My voice wasn't a question. It was a death sentence. Dad stopped shaking Leo and turned around, his face pale. "What? What are you talking about? What's in the tea?" Mom looked at the glass, then at her own hands, and then she started to laugh. It wasn't a sane laugh. It was the sound of a woman who had finally been cornered after years of playing a game no one knew existed. "He was always the favorite," she said, nodding toward my unconscious brother. "But you were always the obstacle. If you were gone, maybe we could finally be a normal family again." She didn't run. She didn't apologize. She just stood there in the wreckage of our dinner, looking at us like we were strangers she'd just met at a bus stop. The police are currently in the living room. My brother's in the ICU fighting through a massive overdose of heavy sedatives. My father is sitting on the porch staring at nothing, his life effectively over. I'm sitting in the driveway, watching the red and blue lights flash against the house. I kept a glass. There's enough residue for the lab to find exactly what she tried to give me. She wanted me gone. Now she's the one who's never coming home.